Welcome to 21st Century Dating Decoded. We're making modern love simple. Get ready to decode your love life. Brought to you by Mingle.
Imagine stepping into this multi-billion-dollar casino, right? But the slot machines aren't designed to pay out cash. They're designed to manipulate your loneliness.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
And the levers you pull. They're these brightly colored profiles on a glowing screen. And the other players in the room, I mean, they might be real people, or they might be AI avatars operated by these offshore fraud syndicates.
It's a completely unregulated space.
Right. So welcome to the highly industrialized landscape of the 21st century digital dating market. Because we used to think of a marketplace as something tangible, you look at the sticker price, you kick the tires, you make a rational decision.
Right, you can physically evaluate what's in front of you.
Exactly. But modern digital romance has completely stripped that physical transparency away.
It really has, because the physical marketplace, it gives you defined rules of engagement. You can touch the product.
Right.
But the digital dating environment, it replaces all those rules with this data-driven architecture. So the interface is meticulously designed to feel like a lightweight, casual game.
Right, just swiping left and right.
Exactly. But the machinery operating underneath is processing human connection with this ruthless algorithmic precision. We are looking at a system that engineers anticipation rather than actual resolution.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because today we are going on a massive deep dive into the dating ecosystem. We've got a really heavy stack of sources for this one.
Yeah, it's a lot of ground to cover.
It is. We're pulling from peer-reviewed academic studies on algorithmic psychology, raw data from the FTC and FBI on cyber fraud, and deep dive market analyses of the top platforms.
Yeah.
Oh, and some fresh 2026 AARP data on how older demographics are navigating this space.
Which is fascinating data, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. So we're setting out to understand the mechanics of this emotional economy.
Right. Our core mission here is to look past the gamified user interfaces. We really need to understand the why behind the swipes. We need to decode how these platforms manipulate fundamental human psychology to keep users engaged, and how they monetize a basic human need for connection.
And crucially, how to survive the sophisticated cybercriminals lurking right behind the glass of your phone. Because it's wild out there.
It really is.
But before we can even begin to talk about how to navigate these platforms safely, we have to look at why the current standard model, the infinite swipe, is fundamentally breaking down.
It's completely fracturing.
Yeah, the era of swiping seems to be on life support. Users are just completely burned out.
They are. The swiping mechanism is experiencing a massive systemic failure right now. And the root of that failure is found in a behavioral psychology concept called variable ratio reinforcement.
Okay, wait, what exactly is that?
So B.F. Skinner discovered this decades ago. If you reward an action every single time, the subject gets bored.
Right, it's predictable.
Exactly. But if you reward it randomly, the subject becomes obsessed. It is the exact behavioral loop engineered into casino slot machines.
Oh, wow. So you swipe right, which is the equivalent of pulling the lever, and you have absolutely no idea if it's going to result in a match.
Right.
The app just sort of withholds the outcome just long enough to create tension.
And the really devious part of that engineering is mapping how the human brain responds. Because your brain does not release its peak dopamine when you actually get the match.
Wait, really? When does it happen?
The dopamine spike happens during the anticipation of the match.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. The uncertainty itself is the chemical hook. These platforms weren't originally optimized to facilitate long-term partnerships. I mean, they were tuned as behavioral environments to maximize your session duration.
Because the longer you scroll, the more ad inventory they can serve.
Exactly. It's an attention economy.
Which perfectly explains the psychological burnout users are reporting. Because when you subject the human brain to an endless, gamified pool of potential partners, our cognitive processing degrades.
We experience severe choice overload.
Right, because the human mind just wasn't built to evaluate thousands of potential mates in a single evening.
No, not at all.
So we stop looking for deep foundational compatibility and resort to making these split-second dismissals based on the most superficial metrics possible.
Yeah, researchers are actually cataloging this as swipe fatigue. The demographics who grew up with these apps are now treating daily profile reviews like unpaid administrative labor.
Like checking emails.
Exactly. It's no longer a romantic pursuit. It's a chore.
Well, looking at the sources, there was this wild 2025 survey from the platform Hilly that perfectly illustrates this. They surveyed Gen Z users and identified this phenomenon they call the dater-spectator effect.
Oh, right, the distortion field.
Yes, social media has created this massive distortion field. People are scrolling through TikTok or Instagram, watching influencers talk about their amazing cinematic dating lives.
And it makes the average user feel entirely inadequate.
Exactly. They feel like they are failing at dating. Yet, when Hindley looked at the actual behavior, 43% of women and 51% of men surveyed had gone on exactly 0 dates in 2025.
Not one date.
Not one.
It's a striking paradox. The digital environment manufactures the illusion of infinite romantic abundance, while the physical reality for the user is a state of severe social isolation.
That's wild.
You have an entire generation feeling intense anxiety about their lack of romantic success, based entirely on a curated social media reality. And simultaneously, they're too exhausted by the mechanics of the apps to actually initiate a real-world date.
It's the equivalent of opening a massive refrigerator that is just packed to the brim with food, staring at it for 20 minutes, and then closing the door because you feel like there's absolutely nothing to eat.
Right, you're starving in the middle of a grocery store.
Exactly. But if everyone is this miserable and the burnout is this universally documented, why do we keep opening the apps?
Well, the industry knows the infinite scroll is losing its grip on user retention. So, to stop the bleed, we are seeing a major pivot toward what the industry terms slow dating.
Slow dating.
Yeah. Platforms are introducing deliberate friction into the process. Like, Hinge aggressively markets the concept that they are designed to be deleted.
Right, I've seen those ads.
They remove the rapid-fire swipe and force users to interact with specific text prompts or audio clips. It forces a momentary pause.
And Coffee Meets Bagel does something similar, right? By artificially limiting the supply,
Yes.
they eliminate the infinite scroll completely by delivering a single curated batch of profiles. I think they call them bagels.
They do, yeah.
And they deliver them at exactly noon every day. So once you review that small batch, the app essentially locks you out of discovery until the next day.
Right. They are taking the refrigerator away.
Wow.
By removing the volume, they force the user to pay closer attention to the limited options in front of them.
Yeah.
And behind the scenes, the technology powering these limited matches is radically shifting.
In what way?
Well, proximity-based swiping, just showing you who is within a 5-mile radius, that's obsolete.
Really?
Yeah, platforms are implementing predictive chemistry engines. They use machine learning to analyze the pacing of your conversations, your interaction tempo, and your distinct typing cadence.
All to mathematically predict if you will have real-world chemistry.
Exactly.
Okay, but if platforms are openly claiming their new AI algorithms can mathematically predict my real-world chemistry based on how fast I text back, we have to look at the validity of that.
Oh, absolutely.
How much of this is actual peer-reviewed science and how much is just a psychological placebo?
That is the multi-million-dollar question in algorithmic matchmaking, and the answer requires looking at a landmark experiment conducted in 2014 by Christian Rudder.
He's the co-founder of OkCupid, right?
Yes, OkCupid.
The famous OkCupid compatibility test. They were the pioneers of using those massive values-based questionnaires to calculate a literal match percentage between two users.
Right. So in this specific experiment, the platform manipulated the interface.
Oh, boy.
They took pairs of users who were mathematically terrible matches, people whose data indicated they only had a 30% compatibility score.
So the algorithm determined they would basically hate each other.
Exactly. However, the platform altered the display and told those users they were actually a 90% match.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because they flat out lied to their own user base.
They did.
They put a stamp of algorithmic approval on two incompatible people and said, the supercomputer has crunched the numbers and determined you two are soulmates. So what actually happened when they talked?
The users had fantastic, engaging conversations, and they went on highly successful dates at the exact same rate as actual 90% matches.
No way.
Yes, the manipulation worked flawlessly.
Wait, so it's basically like Dumbo's magic feather.
That's a great way to put it.
The algorithm doesn't necessarily possess the scientific capability to find your perfect soulmate. It just utilizes an authoritative interface to trick you into trying harder with a stranger.
Yes, the field of algorithmic psychology refers to this as the belief factor. When users believe the math is on their side, it triggers a cascade of cognitive shifts.
Like what?
Firstly, it drastically reduces the fear of rejection. If a screen tells you that you are a 90% match with someone, you feel pre-approved, so you open up faster.
Okay. That makes sense.
Secondly, it activates intense confirmation bias. When a conversation inevitably hits an awkward lull, instead of instantly bailing out and swiping to the next person, the user works much harder to bridge the gap.
Because they assume the chemistry must be there since the science guaranteed it.
Exactly.
So the user gives the stranger the benefit of the doubt. If the match makes a weird joke, the user thinks, well, the algorithm says we're perfect for each other, so I must just be misunderstanding your sense of humor.
Right.
They walk into the interaction actively looking for reasons to like the person, rather than scanning for red flags to dismiss them.
It creates positive expectancy. The ethical debate surrounding this choice architecture is significant, obviously. From the platform's perspective, the algorithm's real utility isn't to play a flawless matchmaker. Its functional job is simply to reduce the overwhelming noise of millions of users down to a manageable handful.
Just to clear the clutter.
Yes. Once the noise is reduced, the human mind and its incredible capacity for belief, adaptation, and connection, it does all the heavy lifting.
Man. Since the algorithm relies on our own psychology to actually execute the connection, how do these platforms justify charging such exorbitant fees? Because dating apps in 2026 are aggressively monetized.
They are heavily monetized.
Let's decode the economic architecture of this ecosystem.
Well, the economic model is brilliant and in many ways structurally predatory. Roughly 70% of the top-earning apps operate on a freemium architecture.
Right, free to download and build a profile, but you have to pay a premium to actually extract any utility from it.
Exactly. The free tiers exist for a singular operational purpose, to build volume.
Because an empty dating app is a dead dating app.
Right, they need millions of free users to provide the inventory. However, the basic utilities required to actually secure a connection are locked behind these pay-to-be-seen paywalls.
We're looking at premium subscription tiers like Tinder Platinum or HingeX.
And if you refuse to pay, the algorithm literally buries your profile beneath the stack of users who do pay. You become functionally invisible.
That is brutal. And the monetization doesn't stop at the monthly subscription.
No, not at all.
The market analyses show these platforms are generating massive revenue through microtransactions and impulse buying. Something like 15% of total dating app revenue is driven purely by these impulse buys.
Features like Bumble Spotlight, where a user pays $5.99 for a temporary 30-minute visibility boost in their local area.
What's so fascinating to me is the timing mechanism behind those prompts.
Yes, very calculated.
The AI tracks your behavioral metrics and explicitly targets you for an impulse buy during a post-match emotional high.
Exactly.
Like, you just had a fantastic chat, your dopamine is spiking, and the exact moment the conversation pauses, a pop-up appears saying, want to be seen by 10 more people just like that? Buy a boost for $6.
They are striking exactly when your wallet is the most vulnerable. It is the absolute weaponization of behavioral data.
Unbelievable.
And moving up the economic ladder, you encounter what industry analysts call the seriousness tax.
The seriousness tax, okay.
Take a completely free platform like Facebook Dating, right? It has zero financial barriers to entry. Contrast that with eHarmony.
Oh, right. They have that huge test.
Yes. eHarmony intentionally hides its price tag until after the user has invested 45 minutes completing an exhaustive 80-question psychological inventory.
So, by the time they reach the paywall, the sunk cost fallacy is completely set in.
Exactly. And then they're asked to pay up to $99 a month.
Just crazy. And the sources also brought up the FTC's recent $14 million settlement with Match Group. It perfectly highlights how this drive for subscription revenue crosses the line into deceptive billing.
It was a very telling case.
Match Group was pushing this free 6-month guarantee, but they were allegedly utilizing flagged, fraudulent accounts to artificially inflate user engagement.
Right, the bot accounts.
Yeah, they would let bot accounts send messages to free users just to trick those users into upgrading to a paid subscription just to read the message.
It's engineering false hope just to secure a credit card charge. That settlement exposed the lengths platforms will go to convert a free user into a paying subscriber.
And at the absolute apex of this market, you have services like Talkify, functioning as a concierge blind date service.
Yes.
They charge anywhere from $4,900 to $30,000 for human matchmakers to personally vet and arrange your dates.
It's a whole different level.
Does this mean romance is functionally becoming a luxury good? Like, if you can't afford a $100 monthly subscription or a $30,000 matchmaker, are you simply relegated to the bottom tier of the digital dating pool?
If we connect this economic architecture to the bigger picture, that exorbitant paywall serves a highly functional purpose. It acts as a security filter.
Interesting. How so?
Cybercriminals and fraudsters operate on massive volume. They rely on spinning up thousands of accounts to find one victim.
Right.
They are mathematically unwilling to pay $99 a month per account to maintain that volume. So the seriousness tax effectively weeds out the industrialized bad actors because it ruins their profit margins.
Wow. Okay, we just talked about how platforms use massive paywalls to filter out the noise. But that economic architecture creates a really dangerous secondary effect.
It concentrates the threat.
Exactly. Because scammers operate on high-volume margins, they completely abandon the paid apps and flood the free tiers.
Right.
The lack of financial barriers on the free platforms doesn't just invite more regular users, it invites industrialized syndicates. The scope of the threat here is just staggering.
The numbers provided by the FBI and FTC are genuinely harrowing. Individuals are losing over $1.3 billion annually to romance scams.
Billion with a B.
Yes, and the devastation is heavily concentrated. The 60 and older demographic alone accounted for $389 million of those losses in just 2024.
It's heartbreaking. And this isn't just a lone hacker in a basement. It is a highly organized, corporate-level enterprise.
It operates like a Fortune 500 company in some ways.
The sources detailed a raid from February 2025 in Makati City, in the Philippines. Investigators stormed a warehouse expecting to bust a standard electronics theft ring.
Right.
Instead, they uncovered 169 people operating a literal production line for synthetic dating profiles.
An AI sweatshop.
Yes, they had rows of desks running real-time face-swapping software. It was an AI romance sweatshop operating 24 hours a day.
That raid in Makati City pulled back the curtain on the most devastating long-con financial scam in the digital ecosystem today, a tactic originating in Southeast Asia known as pig butchering, or sha zu pan.
Pig butchering. The name itself is incredibly dark. Break down the mechanics of pig butchering for us because it operates very differently than traditional phishing.
The translation is literal to their methodology. In a legacy romance scam, the fraudster matches with you and within, say, 48 hours, claims their car broke down and asks for a $100 gift card.
Right, a quick grab.
Exactly. Pig butchering requires extreme patience. The syndicates spend weeks, sometimes months, fattening up the victim emotionally.
Fattening them up. Wow.
They utilize AI text generators to rapidly ingest the victim's responses and perfectly mirror their hobbies, their political values, and their emotional state.
So they build a profound daily intimacy.
Yes, they become the person you text good morning to and the person you vent to after a hard day at work.
And once that total psychological dependency is established, the slaughter happens.
Yes. The horrific part is they never ask for a handout.
They don't.
No. The scammer casually mentions a highly successful cryptocurrency trade or a foreign exchange investment they recently made.
Oh, I see where this is going.
They offer to generously teach the victim how to achieve the same financial freedom. They direct the victim to a completely fabricated investment dashboard.
So it looks real.
The UI looks incredibly professional. It shows fictitious, massive returns on initial small deposits. The victim, believing they're building a financial future with their romantic partner, liquidates their life savings, remortgages their home, and pours it into the platform.
Yeah, man.
When they finally attempt to withdraw the funds, the scammer severs all communication, the dashboard goes dark, and the money is just gone.
It completely destroys people, not just financially, but it shatters their entire reality.
It's psychological devastation.
And looking at the research, the AI generative fraud aspect makes this almost impossible to detect. We are talking about real-time voice cloning and live video deepfakes.
It's terrifying technology.
Okay, I always thought I was too smart to fall for a scammer. I thought, I'll just ask to FaceTime them to prove they're real.
Most people think that.
But if the video feed looks photorealistic, complete with natural eye blinks, and the voice notes match perfectly, how is anyone supposed to spot the trap?
It requires a fundamental paradigm shift in how we evaluate authenticity, because the syndicates understand that perfection triggers human skepticism. If a profile looks like an immaculate supermodel, our defenses immediately go up. So scammers now employ a psychological tactic called strategic imperfection.
Strategic imperfection.
They intentionally engineer flaws into the AI persona.
So they're deliberately engineering flaws because they know perfection triggers our defense mechanisms. That is brilliantly dark.
It really is.
What does that actually look like in practice, like on a call?
During a synthetic video call, the scammer might intentionally spill coffee on their shirt and laugh about being clumsy.
You're kidding.
No. The AI persona will complain about a deeply average, frustrating middle management job, or vent about the stress of an ongoing, messy divorce. They manufacture vulnerability.
Wow. By presenting themselves as flawed and stressed, they completely hack the victim's empathy.
Combine that strategic imperfection with hyper-accelerated intimacy, declaring you are soulmates within a matter of weeks, and the entire operation is designed to seamlessly bypass your critical thinking faculties.
Because the scammers are adapting and exploiting our psychological blind spots so effectively, picking which dating platform you use is no longer just a romantic preference.
Not at all.
It's a critical cybersecurity choice. Looking at the threat data across the top apps, I was really shocked by how specific the vulnerabilities are. We need to look at how these syndicates target different platforms.
The architecture of the app dictates the nature of the scam. Let's examine the massive volume platforms like Tinder and Bumble.
Go.
Tinder's design makes it ground zero for off-platform phishing pivots.
Meaning they try to get you off the app.
Exactly. Because Tinder's internal security is robust, the scammer's primary goal is to match with you and immediately pressure you to move the conversation to an encrypted third-party messaging app.
Like WhatsApp.
Right. Somewhere where Tinder's safety algorithms can't track their scripts.
And looking at the data for Bumble, the vulnerability stems from its own marketing.
Bumble is a really interesting case study.
Because Bumble famously positions itself for career-oriented, successful professionals. And scammers obviously read those same demographics.
Yeah, absolutely do.
So that platform is now a massive hotspot for the successful investor personas utilized in the pig butchering scams. Because they know the user base actually has disposable income to steal.
Yeah, precisely. Now, if we look at Plenty of Fish, or POF, the data indicates it is perhaps the worst offender for automated bot traffic.
Why is that?
This is a direct result of its open architecture. POF allows free open messaging without requiring a mutual match first.
Oh, that's a recipe for disaster.
Syndicates deploy automated scripts to blast thousands of romance baiting messages to brand new users within seconds of their account registration.
Just a shotgun approach.
Yeah.
Now, Match.com was the one that really surprised me in the research. You would assume a high paywall would keep it incredibly secure.
You would think so.
But the sources show it is a primary target for these devastating long cons. Because Match targets a mature demographic, usually users in their 40s to 60s, it heavily attracts the scammers looking for divorcees or widows who have actual retirement savings.
Yes, and plus, the platform is cluttered with zombie accounts.
Right. Abandoned legacy profiles that the algorithm still surfaces, which scammers can easily mimic.
Conversely, look at the vulnerabilities of a platform with zero barriers, like Facebook dating. It is 100% free, but the moderation is virtually non-existent.
But what's the angle there?
The primary threat vector there is account takeover exploitation. Scammers don't build fake profiles. They hack real 10-year-old Facebook accounts belonging to real people and use them to date.
But wow. So to a victim, the profile looks perfectly authentic because it possesses a decade of real photos and family connections.
Exactly. But it's currently being operated by a syndicate in Southeast Asia.
That is wild. And I have to point out the dark irony of a platform like Grindr. It is incredibly efficient for its intended purpose, which is instant location-based discovery. But that exact geographical immediacy makes it a massive hotspot for terrifying sextortion and blackmail schemes.
It's a huge problem.
Scammers can pinpoint a user's exact location, extract compromising photos under the guise of an imminent meetup, and then threaten to send those photos to the user's employer or family unless a ransom is immediately paid.
It perfectly illustrates a core truth of digital architecture. Every app's defining feature is simultaneously its biggest vulnerability.
That's a great point.
It requires constant adaptation. Senior Match, for instance, an app designed specifically for the 50-plus crowd, recognized their demographic was being targeted.
So what do?
They implemented a mandatory real-time live camera verification during setup. You have to prove your face matches your uploaded photos right then and there. It adds a massive layer of friction for automated bot creators.
See, the platforms are clearly trying to build better defenses. The sources mentioned they use NLP risk scoring and behavioral biometrics to catch scammers. But how does that actually work if the scammers are using real people in these sweatshops?
Well, NLP risk scoring analyzes the semantic structure of the messages to detect the linguistic patterns common in scam scripts.
Okay, looking for repeated phrases.
Right. But behavioral biometrics is much more fascinating. It doesn't care what you type. It cares how you type it.
Wait, how I type?
Yes. A bot script inputs 100 words a second with zero hesitation. A human pauses, uses the backspace key, and has a highly specific rhythm between keystrokes.
Oh, that makes sense.
The algorithm measures the milliseconds of hesitation between keystrokes to detect if the entity on the other end is silicon or carbon.
But even with keystroke analysis, those defenses are entirely reactive. By the time the app flags an account, the scammer has already moved you to text messages.
Which is why the final firewall is always the user.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you are opening up your phone to swipe tonight, you have to treat it like a cybersecurity environment. The sources gave us a literal cheat sheet for this.
Yes.
4 critical red flags every dater needs to memorize before their next match.
These 4 red flags are the structural pillars of digital defense. Number 1, the fast exit.
Right. If a match pushes to move the conversation to WhatsApp, Telegram, or regular SMS within the first few exchanges, halt the interaction.
Because they are deliberately trying to pull you out of the dating app's secure environment, so the platform's AI moderation filters can't read their fraudulent scripts.
Exactly. Number 2 on the cheat sheet is instant intimacy.
Yes, classic love doming.
If a stranger is declaring deep emotional attachment, calling you their soulmate, or discussing marriage unusually fast, they are not falling in love.
Right.
They are utilizing a known psychological manipulation tactic to create rapid compliance and emotional dependency.
Okay, what's number 3?
Number 3, the too perfect profile that refuses verification. If they look incredible, but constantly manufacture excuses for why they cannot execute a live video call.
Like claiming their camera is broken.
Or they are stationed overseas on a secret military base. It's a
Oh.
massive red flag.
And number 4 is the absolute deal breaker, the financial pivot. Any mention of cryptocurrency, foreign exchange trading, a sudden tragic medical emergency, or asking for Google Play gift cards to fix a broken phone.
Yep.
The exact moment money, investment advice, or financial distress is introduced into a romantic conversation with someone you haven't met, the romance is over. It is a scam.
But we just established earlier that AI video deepfakes are sophisticated enough to fool a standard video call.
Well, they are.
If they do agree to a video call and they look and sound real,
Yeah.
how do we actually verify them?
You perform an independent liveness verification.
What's that?
You have to break the rendering engine of the deepfake. While on the live video call, ask the person to perform a highly spontaneous, unscripted physical occlusion.
Oh, give me an example.
Ask them to touch your left ear or hold up exactly 3 fingers in front of your nose or turn their head at an extreme, unusual angle.
Oh, so you're basically forcing the computer to render overlapping objects in real time.
Precisely. Current AI rendering software struggles immensely with spontaneous physical occlusions.
So what happens?
When the scammer's hand crosses in front of their digitally generated face, the software cannot process the depth and movement fast enough, and the visual matrix will visibly glitch, blur, or tear.
Ask them to touch their nose and watch the matrix glitch. That is incredible, actionable advice.
It's the best defense we have right now.
And, of course, the golden rule overarching this entire ecosystem. Never, under any circumstances, transfer money or crypto to someone you have not physically met in person. Period.
It is the one rule that must remain absolutely non-negotiable, regardless of the emotional connection you feel you have built.
So what does this all mean for the average person just looking for a date?
That's the big question.
If we have to treat every single match like a potential cybercriminal, scan their typing cadence, and look for AI visual glitches on FaceTime, how on earth are we supposed to remain open and vulnerable enough to actually find love? It sounds entirely exhausting.
This raises an important question about the fundamental nature of boundaries in relationships. Because informed caution isn't an obstacle to romance. It is simply a healthy boundary. And the psychological truth of dating, whether digital or physical, is that a legitimate, healthy, romantic partner will always respect your boundaries.
Oh, that's really true.
If you state that you want to remain on the app's messaging platform for a week before giving out your phone number, a real person will respect that pacing.
Right.
Only a scammer will attempt to rush your boundaries and manipulate you into feeling guilty for having them.
That is a profound distinction. The boundary itself acts as a filter for the bad actors.
Exactly.
Let's look at the immense journey we've taken today. We started by examining the exhausting slot machine mechanics of variable ratio reinforcement and how infinite swiping is burning out a whole generation.
The swipes fatigue.
Yes, and then we unpacked the wild placebo effect of choice architecture, where Just believing in an algorithm's math can actually engineer a real-life spark.
Which is incredible.
We decoded the economic paywalls, how we literally pay a seriousness tax to filter out the noise.
Yeah.
And finally, we confronted the dark reality of AI romance syndicates and how to defend ourselves using a cybersecurity cheat sheet.
It is a radically complex, rapidly evolving ecosystem, but analyzing the current trajectory of where this generative technology is heading leaves me with a final lingering thought.
What's that?
If AI is currently getting so sophisticated at analyzing our conversational tempo, perfectly mirroring our deepest values, and generating flawless real-time video avatars, how long until people willingly choose to date the AI bots?
Wow.
Think about it. An AI entity could be perfectly mathematically compatible, offering endless emotional validation and perfect mirroring without any of the friction, rejection, or messiness of a flawed human being.
Oh, man.
At what point does the manufactured frictionless connection become more desirable to the average user than the real one?
That is a staggering thought. Given everything we just unpacked about swipe fatigue and the desire for perfect compatibility, choosing the flawless ghost in the machine over a messy human reality seems entirely plausible.
It really does.
Well, we'll have to leave it there for you all to chew on. Stay curious, stay protected, and remember to date deliberately out there. Because navigating the dating for today really is like walking through a casino. You've got to know when to hold them, when to fold them, and definitely when to cash out. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Welcome to Speed Mingle.
Where making real connections happens in
Stream,
seconds.
swipe, socialize, your ultimate connection network.
Jump in now.
Thanks for tuning in to the Speed Mingle Network.